Welcome to Literary Libations with Librarians. And this week we are going to be sharing our favorite villains. But before we get into that, I want to tell you how you can get your hands on any of the titles that we talk about. As we share them, they'll appear on your screen, and there will be a list of the different formats that they are available in through the Monroe County Library System. The most direct route to getting your hands on one of these titles is to call your local branch of the Monroe County Library System and speak to one of the librarians, and they will be more than happy to assist you. If you would like to do it yourself, you can get onto our catalog. That web address is there on your screen right now. And you can request physical versions of any of these titles, hardcover, paperback, audiobooks on CD, large print, and request those through our online catalog. Some of the titles will also be available on one of our 2 digital platforms. The first platform is Overdrive, or you may hear it referred to as Libby. They are the same thing. Libby is the name of Overdrive's app. So if you go into your app store, you can search for either one. And Overdrive provides downloadable ebooks and downloadable audiobooks. We also have access to Hoopla, and Hoopla provides downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, and also movies, music, and graphic novels. And the great thing about Hoopla is that there is never a wait for any of the titles that you see in that app. And with us this week, oops, we don't want to do that. Now you know what I'm going to talk about later. With us this week is me again. My name is Jennifer Graneski. I'm the branch librarian at the Dundee branch. And this week, since we're talking about our favorite literary villains, to kick us off, we're going to talk about our favorite villains in TV and or movies. And mine is here with me. Got a little photo op going on, me and Darth. So I grew up in a family that loved Star Wars. So my brother has a huge collection of the original Star Wars toys that are now in lovely glass cases and things like that. So I grew up with Darth Vader. Always thought he was super cool. I mean, can you make a cooler villain than somebody who's dressed entirely in black, is like 7 feet tall, and talks like that, and can basically kill you from across the galaxy? So his plan didn't work out. He even tried it twice, you know. First time he built Death Star, doesn't work. Build a second Death Star. So it didn't work out for him. But he got a redemption arc too. So there you go. Darth Vader, my favorite villain from growing up until now. Also with us this week, we have Jen McCarty, who is a reference librarian at the Ellis branch. And who is your favorite TV or movie villain?
I'm going to go with Magneto from the X-Men. And I'm going to pick him because I think he's a really complicated villain. Like, he's obviously not a good guy. You know, he's a super villain. But, like, when you understand his backstory, and, you know, for those of you who aren't aware of who Magneto is, he was actually a concentration camp survivor. So he's dealt with persecution. And so he decides that, you know, mutants should be better, or are better than regular old humans, and they should be as such. But when you really sort of where he's coming from, like, I feel like he's a misunderstood villain. He's obviously bad, but, you know, I get it a little bit. So I'm going to go with Magneto.
Nice. I know who Magneto is a little bit. I've seen the movies. Who's the actor that plays him as the older character? Is it Gandalf, the guy that plays Gandalf?
Yes. Yes. And I'm totally blanking on his name. I can't think
of his name, but I love him. Yay man who plays Gandalf. All right. Also with us,
Sir Ian McKellen.
There. 2 thumbs up for Ian McKellen. Also with us this week, we have Isabella Arnold, who is a processing clerk at our administration building. And Isabella, who is your favorite movie or TV villain?
Well, I don't watch a lot of scary stuff. So I guess my favorite villain is Dwight K. Schrute from The Office.
Yeah, he's considered villainous.
Yeah, he's just always being a little punk, and I think he's hilarious. And also, sometimes he rubs me the wrong way, which is like how he can be a villain to me. So yeah, that's my villain. white.
Good choice. Nice choice. Thank you, Isabella. Also this week, we have Sarah Willarius, who is a sub throughout the Monroe County Library System. And who is your favorite TV or movie villain, Sarah?
Well, I'm like Isabella. I don't really like watch a little scary ones, so I've been thinking back and forth. My ultimate movie like right now to watch is Hocus Pocus. So I love like the Sanderson sisters and how they get everyone to like follow them by singing, and they love children and candy, and so that one is my go-to right now. Like I love them, but yeah, I'm not really a villain. Deadpool is big at our house too. You know, I was doing the backboard for the library reading at Bedford in the kids' room, and he was like, it was midnight, and he's like, let's watch this. It's a love story. I was like, it is? It's a love story. He's like, that's always a villain in our house, but I watch because who can you not watch? Ryan Reynolds, right? That is one guy to watch. So he's a pretty good villain here.
That's true. Thank you, Sarah. And finally with us this week, we have Ashley Lyford, the community librarian at the Summerfield Petersburg branch. And who is your favorite TV or movie villain?
So here's the thing. I struggle with these questions every time I participate. And I've decided to just say, I actually cannot handle villains. Like, the truth is, as a child, and even now, like if I'm watching a Disney movie, which I love all Disney movies, like Ursula, I have to skip past the villain. Not kidding. Like even like the whole time I was a kid, I'd get to the bad, scary parts, and I'd just, fast forward on my VHS tape a little farther away from them. I'm not sure that I've seen a whole villain scene my entire life. So that's where I land.
I can remember trying to get you to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I was terrified.
And you going, nope, too scary. Too scary, can't watch Buffy.
No. I don't do well with scary things.
No Ursula, no Scar, Gaston.
That guy gets me.
Okay, so Gaston I've seen. Yes. Okay, that's different. But like Scar is scary to me. Cruella de Vil, scary. Ursula really freaks me out. No, thank you. Yeah, no, don't like her either. Nope, I'll just fast forward past those parts.
And then there's me who's like, look, that bad person came on screen. I'm mesmerized. Like I want those
my
powers.
kids. Brian's obsessed with villains.
I feel you, Brian.
They went up to Gaston at Disney World and yelled, "Killed the beast."
So Gaston had, some buddies with him then.
Exactly.
I'm sure Gaston appreciated that. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and talk about our favorite villains from books that we've read. And I think I'm going to ask Isabella to go ahead and get us started.
So the first book I'm going to talk about is Anxious People by Frederick Backman. And this is like the most non-villain villain you'll ever meet. And this is his latest book. It just came out in September. I was so excited to read it. Seen some of the past literary libations with librarians. I've talked about the majority of his works. But so Anxious People is about a bank robbery that accidentally turns into a hostage situation. And it just kind of, this poor bank robber didn't really mean to rob the bank, and it just didn't mean to take hostages, and it didn't mean to accidentally have a gun, and it was just this whole long saga of, oops, it was an accident. I didn't mean that this would happen. And as the hostage drama is unfolding, I mean, it's a very loose term for a hostage drama. It's like a drama for like 2 minutes, and the hostages start taking over, and they're like, no, sit down, we're gonna order some pizza. Like, sit down, no, we're gonna do this. Like, no, you don't answer the door, let us answer the door. And they just really take in this bank robber accidentally, and they become this clan, this family. And it's not even like they know they're not really in danger from the moment it happens. And this bank robber is just trying to make their family better, and it's just you feel so bad, and it's just a villain that you love. Like you don't mean to love the bank robber, but it just happens. And this book was what I really enjoyed it, and it's just it just keeps blossoming. It just keeps unfolding, like all of his books. Each character is just so deep, and so many things happen in their lives to get them to this point. And as you're just reading it, you're thinking, oh my goodness, the stars are just aligning. Like, does he write it backwards? Like, he knows that this is what's going to happen, and then all these other sequences he creates. I want to know his writing process. But Anxious People, love it. It's a great villain story. If you're a scaredy cat like me, I'm a scaredy cat too, actually. But when I first saw this headings to sign up for, I think it was like Villains You Root For or something was like a title that it was, and I signed up because I wanted to talk about Anxious People, because you want to make sure that they don't get caught by the police, that they get out of there, and that it all turns out good. And there's just so many, I kept going back to the beginning to reread. There's so many moments when you just want to say, what? This was foreshadowed, but let me go back and reread that passage. And so good. My favorite Swedish writer, Fredrik Backman there. And then because I'm a very scared person. My other person, I had to think hard about who I would do for my second villain. So then it was just like, well, Severus Snape, done. And I was thinking back about it, and so this is gonna, make me seem very young. The first Harry Potter came out when I was like in the first grade, and then the last one came out when I was a senior in high school. So like pretty much all of my schooling, I hated Snape. I hated Snape with passion. Like he was the worst. He was so mean, and I just couldn't stand him. And then that last book came out, and then you're reading about his memories, and the tears are just coming, and you're like, oh my goodness, I was a Snape fan the whole time and I didn't know it. Yeah, Severus Snape, he has lots of ups and downs, but he loved Lily so much. And then I went back and I was just Googling on Pottermore an hour ago, and when I read about Snape's Patronus being the doe because Lily's was the doe and he loved her so much, I got goosebumps and I loved him even more. So yeah, those are my two low-key villains. Yeah.
And Snape, see, I didn't start reading Harry Potter, and this shows my age, until I was late in college, and then as an adult when I was actually a school librarian. And so I remember those books being released and getting them in the kids' hands and trying to order enough. And prior to that final book, I remember having the great debates with kids, because I loved Snape from the beginning, because he said the things as a teacher that as a teacher you wish you could say. And so I loved Snape from the beginning, and I kept telling kids, I said, I don't think he's all bad. I don't think he's all bad. I don't think he's all bad. I think we're going to learn more about him. And then, so I felt very vindicated when you got to that final one.
I still don't.
You're not sold on Snape?
No. I think
in him, which is a little dangerous.
Yeah, and I think if it hadn't been for Lily, he didn't care if Voldemort went and killed Harry or James. It was Lily.
Yeah, it was all Lily.
I think that was really his only redeemable thing. He would have sent Harry to wherever, like, die, small child, I don't care. James, good riddance. Like, he's very gray. Like, he's not entirely evil.
Yeah, he's very gray.
Behind, like, oh, Snape's not bad at all. Yes, he is.
No, he's definitely all sorts of shades of gray, where he definitely did things that he shouldn't have. But I also feel ultimately he made choices that he needed to in the end.
For sure.
So yay, Snape. Thank you, Isabella.
I'm
And
clueless. I haven't read any of the Harry Potters. No. I tried to get through the first one and was like,
You should
Just
listen to
not
the
my kind of
audiobooks. I've heard a lot. I have not listened to the audiobooks, but I know Jody is obsessed with them.
The audiobooks are fantastic.
because Jim
They really
Dale
are.
is amazing as the narrator.
Yeah.
And your daughter's getting to the age where she's going to be ready for Harry Potter pretty soon. And June and Autumn can read it together.
I want to read Mr. Lemoncello again.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting for her to get into, those books. Like, come on, let's read those.
And let's go ahead and have Sarah share her villains with us next.
See, I don't like to watch villains, but I sure love to read about them. So if you give me a good mystery thriller, like I don't want like the blood and the guts, you know, I don't want more like true crime or anything, but if someone's gone missing or they can't find them, I'm up. So with Malice, we had to fill out a thing for the library, and this is like my ultimate go-to YA book. This is about two girls that are in seniors in high school with French class. And one is really popular and one is not, but they've been best friends since like they were 6th grade or 6 years old. So they save up money and they go over to France with their class trip, you know, as most seniors do. And one comes home and one does not. So there's lots of plot twists, turns, and you just never really figure out what happens in France until the very end of the book, and then you're like mind blown because you're like, wait, what? She ended it like that? No way. So it was like going back and rereading it like, no, she didn't. And then you're like, I can't even put this book down. Like, why do you end it like that? So this one has such a good ending, but it's clean, like for young adults, where it doesn't have sex in it or it doesn't have a lot of cuss words. It's just a good, pick it up, you won't be able to put it down, good YA book. And then my other book, like I said, I had too many to choose. The Perfect Wife. This was a little sciencey, but you learn from it. This was a man who was inventing robots for work, lost his wife, but created the exact replica of his wife, where she obtained like she looked just like her. She lived in the house with him. She started to get emotions and feel things. She started remembering stuff that like the wife. Yeah, it was you were like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. Could this really happen? But this is another mind-blowing end book, and you're like, whoa, you didn't see that coming. But it was really fun how they made the robots, how they make like the latex skin, how they program them, because he's making this one in his basement. But he works with robots, but he made this one as like a protege. Well, she goes and picks up the kid from school, and people are like, whoa, I thought you were dead. And he's like, my mom is back? Huh? Who is this lady? So it takes a lot of twists like that too, where you're like, what? Why did he create this woman? Did he love her so much she couldn't live without her? Or did she know something that he never told her? So that one was really good too.
That one sounds different and is also creeping me out as I sit here trying to picture like the robot version of your partner. Like,
yes. Mm-hmm.
No, that's kind of
she like strips her skin at one point too, because she's tired of like being her. So like it gets kind of, but it's also really cool. It was really cool. The ending, you were like, man, I'm waiting for a second one, but there isn't one. But I really wanted that nice happy ending.
That's hard with thrillers.
It is.
You don't get that as often.
Mm-mm.
All right, thank you, Sarah. And let's have Ashley share her villainous reads.
Okay, so the first one, I am just gonna say the White Witch from the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I mean, let's look at the facts here. She killed Christmas, which is my favorite, and it's always winter in Narnia, right? So she killed Christmas, where like it's always winter, and snow, and probably feels Christmassy. She banished like all sense of happiness and hope. And she turns her enemies into stone. I think she, she has some issues, and she's a good villain. The other one I want to talk about is Miss Trunchbull from Matilda. I mean, I'm sure we've all read Matilda. She is scary, especially as a like little kid when you read it when you're, reading like J-books when you're in elementary school. She's just so mean, and like she gets pleasure from being mean. Like I just don't. She was really rough for me, and I felt like the movie really portrayed her well, but also made me even. So she's just like she's a bully. That's all. She's more of a bully. But those were my two choices.
Those are two classics. And I love The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It was really hard for me not to choose The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but I've talked about it, I think, on here before, so I was like, nope, can't do it again. But the White Witch, man, she's evil through and through, tempting a child with Turkish delight.
I was just going to say Turkish delight.
Yep, desperately wanting Turkish delight.
I don't know what it is. I mean, I know it's like a pastry, but I feel like if I ever saw it somewhere, I'd be like, nope. Mm-mm.
It's not that exciting. Like I was picturing something deeply decadent, and no, they had it somewhere. It might have been. I wonder if they have it at the pastry shop in Detroit, like near Greektown. I don't know, but I tried it once and was kind of like, all right, well, once is enough. Next time, try tempting them with like a gooey chocolate brownie. But Turkish delight sounded much more exciting.
Yeah.
And then Trunchbull is just so memorable. And yeah, it's not shot put that she did. What was the sport that she did? Because she flings the thing around and then throws it. But flinging kids by their hair. Lousy children. All right, thank you, Ashley. And let's have Jen go ahead and share her villainous books.
So my villains aren't super villainous. Well, they are, but I didn't go with super like traditional scary kind of villains. The first one, okay, I'm trying to decide which one I want to talk about first. Let's go with The Devil Wears Prada first. The villain, of course, is Miranda Priestley. And if you're not familiar with the book or familiar with the movie starring the amazing Meryl Streep, Miranda is the head of a fashion magazine. And this book is about her newest assistant. Her newest assistant's name is Andy, and she gets this job as an assistant. Go away, Harry. And Miranda is the boss from somewhere very not nice. She's extremely demanding. She forgets everyone's names. She belittles everybody. She has really unrealistic expectations, like, oh, you're my assistant. You were at my beck and call. Do not ignore my phone calls. Do not, you have to do this every day. You have to do this every day. She has all of these duties, all of these things, and then she's expected to be, prim and proper. And like, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, talking about Harry Potter, or in the book, this book was written in 2003. So Harry was, a big thing. And one of the things that Miranda asks Andy to do is to get a advanced copy of one of the new Harry Potter books for her kids to read. They're going out of town and they need the book. They need the book before it comes out. And she's like, I can't, this is an impossible thing to ask somebody. But if she doesn't do it, she's in trouble from this incredibly powerful, incredibly kind of mean, woman. So she's just, I find her like kind of a fun villain in that she's so realistic. Like, there are a lot of people like that, and probably, I mean, luckily I haven't had any bosses like that, but there are people that think they're so incredibly powerful that they can just, you know, boss you around and do whatever I say, or I'm going to ruin your life. And it's just sort of an entertaining, and fashion is not my thing at all, but like getting into this world of high fashion, it's kind of fun. So The Devil Wears Prada. My second one is actually nonfiction. So I debated doing this one, but I think it's a good choice. Harrison, please go away. I have a tiny villain in my house that thinks he wants to be in this little video here. Okay, so The Devil in the White City follows the building of the Chicago's World Fair in 1893. So it basically tells a couple different stories. The main two stories are the head architect for the World Fair and like all the stuff he does to build it. This comes on the heels of the Paris World Fair, where the Eiffel Tower is unveiled, and they really, really, really want to be bigger and better than Paris. So the architect comes up with, you know, they've got someone that's going to do the Ferris wheel, which becomes a thing. But while all this is going on, while all of this building of what they call the White City, that's basically the exhibition of the World's Fair, there's also this other man in town who is, he's new in town. He buys this pharmacy, kind of swindles the lady out of the pharmacy, ends up building what they end up calling like the murder castle. He builds this huge house complex that has all kinds of like hidden areas and like trapdoors and secrets. And he, at one point, he starts taking in boarders, and the boarders keep going missing. This is a real person. He's basically considered one of America's like first modern serial killers. And he brought all the people in, he'd bring people in under the auspices of staying with him for the World's Fair, and then they disappear. He actually, interestingly enough, was one of these people that was so sure of his charisma and his ability to get away with anything, he ends up being arrested for insurance fraud. And after that, they discover, oh wait, you have all these wives that have went missing. You have all these other people that have went missing. They figure he may have murdered and hid up to 200 people, a lot of them in this mystery or murder castle that he built during the time of the Chicago's World Fair. So this is such an interesting book because it covers all this historical, this interesting stuff of the World's Fair, but at the same time, paralleling it with this other guy who was doing really awful, nefarious things at the same time frame. So it's just a super fascinating story that happens to be real.
Wow. One of those times when life is stranger and more horrifying than fiction.
I'm not a nonfiction reader at all, and I love this book. I've read it multiple times because I just think it's so fascinating and it's so well done.
That sounds cool.
Thank you, Jen, for sharing with us. And hello, Harry. We enjoyed having you too. And I will go ahead and share my villainous reads now. And my first one, I think the title is pretty self-explanatory, and I picked it up completely based on the cover. It is called My Sister, the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. And it is set in Lagos, Nigeria. And I just thought that was a fascinating setting. The title got my attention right away. And it tells the story of two sisters, and Korede, who is a nurse, and her younger sister, Ayula. And Ayula has difficult relationships with men. And at the beginning of the book, this is the third time that Ayula has called her sister Korede and asked her to come over to her house to help her clean up after a man that she has murdered. And every time, you know, as a sister, Korede goes over, she has to help Ayula. She gets the house straightened up. She knows Ayula has a lot of struggles, even though she's beautiful and charming. Ayula has never really seemed to like herself. She always looks for self-esteem in men. She always seems to pick terrible men. And she's told her sister every time this happens that it was self-defense. But Corday is starting to look at this and say, you know, 3 times, that's the definition of a serial killer, is when it happens 3 times. And so Corday is not sure what to believe. And things go from bad to worse when Ayula meets one of the doctors at the hospital where Corday works. And it's not just any doctor, it's the doctor who Corday has been semi in love with for a couple of years. And of course, Ayula enters the picture, and Ayula is beautiful and charming, and Corday isn't sure how to keep them apart. And she feels if she doesn't, it's not going to end well. This is a fabulous book. It's a short book. I think it's just over 200 pages. The setting was so well done. Lagos is this vibrant, colorful, but also really corrupt city to live in. So that was fascinating. At the time I read it, it wasn't available as an audiobook, but it is available on Overdrive now as an audiobook, and I think it would be a fabulous audio. So 2 thumbs up. Ayula is a fascinating, multifaceted villain. And it's a villain with a sister who's trying to figure out what to do with the villain in her life. And then my other choice is a series that I have loved since the first time I read it. And that is the Monstrumologist series by Rick Yancey. And the series is told from the perspective of orphan Will Henry, who has been sent to live with Dr. Pellinor Warthrop, who is a monstrumologist. If you like Victorian Gothic thrillers, think cobblestones and foggy streets and men in top hats and capes, this is going to be your cup of tea. Dr. Warthrop is always trying to find the next monster. He's dissecting monsters. He's studying monsters. He tries to capture monsters so that he can study them more. And now Will Henry is thrown into his life. Dr. Warthrop has no idea how to relate to a child of any sort. And I think in the first book, Will Henry is between 11 to 13. And so Dr. Warthrop just looks at him as his assistant. And one of the common refrains that you hear him say is, "Snap to, Will Henry, snap to." And Will Henry has to go and snap to, and sometimes that involves, you know, dealing with corpses or running around the town to go find something for him. The monsters, I felt, are genuinely scary. In each of the books, there's a different monster. The second book is The Curse of the Wendigo. And the Wendigo, in this case, is described as a creature that continually needs human flesh to survive, but is always starving. In the next book, there's the faceless ones that are basically a zombie type creature on an island. But the villain that was my favorite villain in all of this is Dr. Warthrop. Because, and the way the book put it was that this story explores the darkest heart of man and monster and asks the question, when does man become the very thing he hunts? When does Warthrop go from being human to being a monster for the sake of his science? And that is explored through the entire series. I think it does a great job in creating all those characters with shades of gray. I loved the ending. And for a series, it's nice that it's already all out there. This is the complete beginning and end. There's not going to be another book. This is it. Again, it is gruesome. And looking back at my reviews, I gave almost every one of them 5 stars. I'm saying how much I love it. And then one of our librarian friends also reviewed it. And her review was, and I love this book really grossed me out. It wasn't really my cup of tea, but I can see why all my deranged friends liked it so much. Thanks. But it's true, because at the time this book came out, I think there were a lot of us that were like, you have to read this, you have to read this. So again, if that Victorian Gothic is your cup of tea, you like your characters with shades of gray, you like delving into deep, they're pretty thick books, you got to pick up The Monstrumologist. It was marketed as a teen series, but the main character, even though Will Henry is the narrator, the main character is Dr. Warthrop. This is a study of who he is and who he becomes over time. So I really feel there's a lot of adult appeal, and sort of feel it should have been marketed to adults to start with.
I know I loved it. I feel like we convinced Ashley to read it and you didn't like it, right? Does that?
That was not Ashley's review, by the way. So just so you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you end up reading it, Ashley?
I don't think so. I think
did
I
we do it
started
for book club, or did you just ignore it?
Well, I think I started it.
It's too much to skip.
Yeah. I don't like villains.
And
It
really
is
a villain
scary.
study.
It is spooky. It is, but it's so good. So good.
I have to pull up my Goodreads to see how I really like whether or not I finished it. I don't remember.
So, but that's one of my favorite series. I own all 4 books. They're on my shelf. And when I started thinking about what I was going to talk about, I was like, oh, I got to talk about that one. And then I wanted to go reread them all. Oh,
2 stars.
2 stars. So sad. So sad.
I feel like I remember our book club did it, and I was so excited for it, and I loved it so much, and like everyone else hated it. And I was so disappointed that they all hated it so much because I thought it was amazing.
That would have been me. Like, but I couldn't persuade my book club to do it, but I feel like it would be the same way. They'd be like, yeah, we're not seeing what you're seeing. But for me, it's got a special place for me. So that's Monstrumologist series. Pick it up. It's available on like all the platforms as an audio or an ebook. So check it out. And next week, because Halloween is coming up shortly, we will be sharing our spooky, spine-chilling seasonal reads next week. So next week will be a spooky week. So if you like those sort of scary, spooky, really scary stories, make sure to tune in next time. Thank you to all of you who shared your villain reads, and thank you to those of you who listened. We hope you have a great week. Bye.